Imagine this, a quiet neighborhood in Warner Robins, Georgia. It's the day after Thanksgiving, November 24th, 2023. Families are still enjoying leftovers, children are playing, and the town feels calm, almost sleepy. But behind the doors of 202, Wake Forest Drive, something dark and irreversible has just taken place. At 9:10 a.m., a 911 operator answers a call. On the line is a man with a chillingly steady voice. He introduces himself as 57-year-old Brian McManus. He says he's just returned from walking his dog and found his 63-year-old wife, Lucille, and known lovingly by neighbors as Miss and dead. He claims it looks like suicide. His words are smooth, measured, almost rehearsed. But when police arrive minutes later, the story begins to crumble. There's no gun. No casings. No evidence of a self-inflicted wound. Instead, what officers find is a woman brutally beaten, savagely attacked in her own bedroom. The supposed suicide is, in reality, a murder. And the man who made the call is about to become the prime suspect. To everyone in the neighborhood, Miss and was the heartbeat of the block. She radiated warmth from her porch, waving at neighbors, remembering birthdays, nurturing her granddaughter Jessica and 2 great-grandchildren under her roof. She had faced loneliness after being widowed, but she never lost her light. At 61, she dared to hope that love might still be possible. In 2022, like many her age, she tried online dating. She wasn't looking for grand romance, just someone to share life's simple moments with. What she didn't know was that the profile she swiped on would lead her into the arms of a predator. On her phone appeared Brian McManus, a man who painted himself as a refined British gentleman, a former police officer from London. He spoke of honor, of integrity, of wanting a fresh start in America. He knew exactly what to say, how to charm, how to play the part of the devoted suitor. What he didn't share was his true history, a disgraced law enforcement career cut short by harassment complaints, a failed marriage in Idaho marked by domestic violence, and a well-established pattern of exploiting women for his own gain. Misson believed she had found companionship. Within 3 months, Brian proposed, and soon after they married. He moved into the bustling family home on Wake Forest Drive, where laughter of children and family dinners filled the evenings. But beneath the facade of a blended family was a darker truth. Witnesses would later testify that Brian's rush to marry was less about love and more about paperwork, his fast track to a green card. The mask slipped quickly. Brian began disappearing on supposed business trips to Florida. He was vague, secretive. In reality, those trips weren't for work at all, they were rendezvous with a married mistress. He juggled deception effortlessly, playing the doting husband at home while living a double life elsewhere. Prosecutors would later describe him as a textbook narcissist, a serial liar who saw women as disposable tools for his ambitions. But arrogance makes men careless. In November 2023, Brian slipped. A text meant for his mistress was accidentally sent to Miss N. Intimate. Affectionate. Undeniable. The betrayal cut deep. Heartbroken, she confronted him. And in her anger, she threatened to expose everything, the sham marriage, the lies, the immigration fraud. For Brian, this wasn't just a marital dispute, it was a threat to the very foundation of his carefully built scheme. Deportation loomed. His dreams of staying in America shattered if she went through with it. And in his mind, Miss and herself became the obstacle. What came next was chilling in its calculation. He waited. He planned. On that November morning, he walked the dog, staged his alibi, then returned to unleash unspeakable violence. He attacked Miss and with a rubber mallet, bludgeoning her repeatedly, and when she fought back, her fingernails tearing into his skin, leaving scratches he couldn't explain, he strangled her with his bare hands. Afterward, he cleaned himself up, disposed of the weapon in a drainage ditch, and dialed 911, reciting the suicide story like a script. But detectives weren't fooled. His demeanor was off, too calm, too rehearsed. The scratches on his arms told their own story. Surveillance cameras revealed him detouring to the drainage ditch, discarding incriminating evidence. When investigators searched, they found the rubber mallet, stained with blood, and a phone he tried to destroy. The autopsy confirmed the brutality, blunt force trauma, strangulation, and the desperate fight Miss Ann had waged to live. Her blood mixed with Brian's DNA sealed the narrative. Faced with mounting evidence, Brian's lies became more desperate. First, he pointed fingers at Miss Ann's own granddaughter, Jessica, and her boyfriend. Then he spun tales of a home invasion that left no trace. Each version crumbled under scrutiny. Security footage showed no intruders. Cell phone data placed Jessica miles away. Piece by piece, the truth cornered him. The trial in July 2025 laid it all bare. 6 days of testimony, DNA analysis, surveillance footage, and accounts of his history of exploiting women. Jurors saw through the polished accent and hollow charm. They saw a predator who manipulated trust, who used women for status, money, or legal benefits, and who, when threatened, resorted to murder. After just 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Life in prison, without parole. Brian McManus would never walk free again. But no sentence could restore what was lost. Miss Ann's family wept in court, their grief raw and irreparable. Jessica's voice cracked as she spoke of guilt for not sharing Thanksgiving lunch with her grandmother the day before her murder. Another granddaughter called her my beautiful, kind, and loving Mim, ripped away by a selfish, cold-blooded monster. Even as her loved ones mourned, they were forced to endure Brian's cruel attempts to shift blame onto them, twisting the knife deeper. The story of Miss Ann is more than a crime. It's a reminder of vulnerability, of the dangers faced by those who seek companionship in a world where predators hunt for trust. She believed in kindness, in human decency, and it was that very goodness that made her a target. Yet, that goodness is also her legacy. Neighbors remember her waves from the porch, her laughter in the garden, the love she poured into her family. She deserved mornings of coffee with someone who cherished her, evenings filled with peace, and years of joy surrounded by family. Instead, her life was stolen by a man who saw her only as a means to an end. And though the courtroom has closed, her story lingers, a warning, a heartbreak, and a call never to forget the woman behind the headlines, Lucille Ann McManus, who lived with love and lost her life to betrayal.